What's up, everybody? I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to The Right Mindset. Today, I have a very special guest, Mr. Thomas R. Clark, everybody, joining me for a lovely interview between two authors, no ferns, however.
With a name you never want to doubt.
That's right, Thomas. Today, though, we don't know who's going to be who since we're both Thomases. I think there's some drum
Tommy.
puns in there. What's how many Thomas or Tommy or Tom friends do you have where you feel like, how do you rank them?
That's why I went to Tommy.
That's
what I was when I was a kid. As
Yeah.
I've gotten older, I've met a whole bunch of Toms, and they want to be Tom. Okay, I'll be Tommy.
Do you like Toms? Like when you meet them, you're like, you don't deserve this name. This isn't a you.
No, I'm like, I love my name. I think it's a great name.
Well, I know you love your name, but like when you meet another Thomas or a Tom, are you like, I don't know, like when you meet someone, you're like, they look like a Michael, they look like a Paul. Like, do you meet people like, oh, you don't deserve this. You're not a Thomas. You don't have a beard. You don't have a personality. I
know a few Toms that are like that. Yeah, I'm going to be going to see Terrifier 3 with one of them tonight. So,
well, do you have like a? Because in my phone, if I have like a group chat called the Toms.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Do you have anything like that?
We have a few.
That many Toms.
Me and my buddies that I used to do the Necrocasticon podcast where I met you on actually. Gosh, that was from years ago now. Jeez.
Yeah. Long time.
We have a chat that we still have together, and me and my siblings do, but that's about it.
That's it. All right. Well, wait. Are you saying your siblings also have the name Thomas? Are there two
Toms?
Oh
no, there's a whole bunch. I have a lot of. This year I discovered I have 6 brothers and sisters I didn't know I have.
Wow.
So now we have a chat where they're getting to know me.
It's okay. All right. Are any of them by chance named Thomas?
No.
Oh,
thank God. But we have a dual oldest brother problem now.
Okay.
Because I was raised as an oldest child, and that's a certain mindset and attitude that you develop.
Yeah.
And then there's the oldest child of them, which is my brother Wesley, who is 2 years older than me. So we bump heads a little bit on who's the alpha dog.
Yeah. Wow. Now, how many years went by? You were the eldest.
57 years.
57. Oh, so you've earned the right to at least be standing next to him.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So as an author, though, let's get right into it. All right. Let's talk about names, actually, since we're on the topic. When you're writing your stories, right? Do you try to avoid common names, or are you one of those like, how do I throw as many letters together as possible names?
I name my characters after people I know. So,
wait, what?
My characters are named after people I know.
Are they named after them, and also they have the personalities of those people? So, like,
not always,
because I did that. I changed the names, but I make characters that are people I know, and then I make them do things that would be considered proper to counteract the emotional scarring they gave me when I knew them in person. I'm like, oh, this is what being a good person would look like on the page, or like I'll win the arguments that like I'm. Do you do that? Do you have these arguments?
Sometimes it depends on the character. It really does. Sean, the protagonist of Summer Home, is basically me, but it's got my buddy's name.
Yeah. You're like, all right. Well, that's like a self-insert. What are your thoughts on self-inserts? I'm a fan of them. I don't see anything wrong with them. But
you've seen all the beautiful Frank Frazetta, Conan the Barbarian pictures over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are all self-portraits of Frank Frazetta.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the face on Conan and all those is Frank's face.
Oh, not the body though.
Not the body.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he worked out, he's buff, but he wasn't. He wasn't that buff.
He wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. So I we all put a little bit of ourselves into the characters. You can't help but do that.
Yeah, it would make sense because even emotionally, like the way we process things, I feel like the only adjustment is sometimes we approach the way we think and feel slightly different to kind of almost have a conversation about it with ourselves as we write a story. Yeah. The way we might be afraid of something, but like, how do we find ourselves brave? How would we feel about that? Or vice versa,
Well, a lot of what I write is retellings of things that happened in my past anyway. So,
But you write horror.
yeah, yeah. Well, I fictionalize it, and I've had
Oh,
some
yeah.
rough things happen to me in my life.
Okay.
We write what we're afraid of. My wife's had 3 DNCs from blighted ovaries. There's a lot of dead babies in my fiction.
Yeah, yeah.
My sister's boyfriend, or fake boyfriend in high school and college, was eaten by cannibals in 2008.
Wait, for real?
For real, yeah. So there's a lot of cannibalism in some of my stuff. We what we're afraid of. I was almost abducted when I was a teenager by a man who probably would have killed me.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
We have
and
that in common.
I lived with that horror in my mind for
Yeah.
years until I finally put it on the paper in a piece of fiction that I wrote, and it was like a monkey off my back. It exorcised
Really?
that demon from my body, and now other people can read that story and see that what went to me, what happened, or what could have happened to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
And they have something that a lot of guys don't write about sexual assaults or admit to them, and for me to put one in a piece of fiction that I wrote is monumental.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they do approach, sexual assault, it's usually like the guy doing something to a woman, but rarely
Right.
is it the man. So, and I think that's a big conversation right now, even in the
It
zeitgeist,
is.
where what is it? Female teachers are taking advantage of boys at a crazy rate, and it's like we're
I'm
supposed
not going to say that I almost didn't have that happen too.
Well, yeah. Well, what's the
Almost
old
did
thing?
have
You
it.
celebrate it. You go, "Oh, that would have been great. You would have
Well,
been
yeah,
with it."
back in the '80s, that would have been a life achievement award.
Yeah, congrats. Oh, you got Miss
Nowadays,
So and So.
no. You thought you were manipulating. She was manipulating you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Because
the other
how do
way
you
around.
manipulate
No
a woman
achievement.
at 10 or 15 or not
Yeah.
even?
Groomers are nefarious. My daughter was groomed by a man. And
Oh,
it's awful what happens to people when talking heads throw that term around on screens.
yeah.
Using it to further their agendas. It angers me because they don't truly understand what happens to somebody when they are groomed.
Mhm.
And I live with this now because of my daughter. She's manipulative. She fibs a lot. She lies a lot. But these are the traits that she was
Oh, she
taught
took.
by her abuser.
Yeah, she took on the traits just because.
Yes,
Of
yes. Now
the,
she hasn't continued the cycle. I know
yeah.
that. She's a great mom, but she has issues because of what he did to her.
This brings up an interesting conversation where, us as writers, we, again, you said something very important, that we write what we know. We write what we experience. I love that you process trauma through your writing to work through it. But what are your thoughts on, it's like when you watch a murder mystery, right? Where the killer, like the serial killer, is going through process, and then the film or the book or the show is giving us an inside look to that process. Do you think if, and I'm not saying not to write grooming, this is just the devil's advocate question, do you think if grooming is presented in media, like a novel,
It should be.
could that be a tool for groomers to hone?
Well,
It's like sociopaths when they have therapy. They use therapy as a way to learn tools to manipulate.
I've learned that a crazy person isn't dangerous until somebody agrees with they're crazy. That's one thing. And if you're putting something out there that
Mhm.
is a textbook for something like that, then perhaps yes, perhaps that is a negative, and we shouldn't be doing that.
Oh, you mean like a how-to book?
Right,
Yeah,
right. But that being said, to not talk about what groomers do is irresponsible on our half.
I
We
agree.
need to. We need to explain what they do and how they do it. And I think that the best way that I can approach this, and there's a movie called Becky.
Okay. Yeah.
It's basically if Rambo was a 16-year-old girl. A teenage girl witnesses her mother and stepfather or father and stepmother murdered by white supremacists before her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin James, Mr. Comedian, plays the leader of the white supremacists in this movie. He's not funny at all, but what he is nice.
Yeah, it's real nice.
And he's nice when he's trying to recruit.
Mm.
And that's how the bad guys get you, is they're nice to you.
Yeah.
So one of the problems that we had during the last election the last two elections with social media was the conflict discourse that was out there, and it wasn't debate. It wasn't healthy debate where we were coming to an agreement on. It was, I hate you, you hate me. Go off on your own social media platform.
Yeah, I'm right, you're wrong, etc.
Yeah, we can't have that anymore.
Yeah.
We can't, and
Yeah.
that's the problem that that this has, is that it's people arguing. So be nice to somebody. It allows you to get your message to them because they're more likely to listen to you if you're nice. Sorry, I'm stealing the bad guy's trick right now. Okay, I was taught much of what I believe today from somebody being nice to me, because until about 10, 15 years ago, I didn't know what white privilege was.
Yeah.
Until it was explained to me properly by somebody being nice to me. And literally, the comic book with the light bulb going off next to the guy's head, that happened with me. I'm like, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, I have an 850 credit. No.
Well, but this is a case where, a person of color explained to me, when you get on a bus, little old ladies don't clench their purse. But when my 6-year-old son gets on a bus, they do.
Yeah, because bias and racism.
Yes, absolutely.
But, that bias is also taught communally, though.
It is. That's why we have systematic racism in this country. And my job as a 57-year-old cis white male is to unfuck that.
Yeah, and also media out there sometimes, if not all the time, the majority of it portrays those stereotypes, and especially in the 80s, definitely in the 70s.
Yeah, but what we have gotten positive cultural aspects out of those blaxploitation movies from back in the 70s. If you look back at the movie Blackula, for example, it's considered a classic, and it really shows you a study of the microcosm of that era.
Superfly,
H.P. Lovecraft,
yeah,
and how racist he was. But I think that lends now to make his horror more horrifying, because you see that paranoia. You understand why he wrote these stories now, and why he made people into fishmen and stuff like that, because of his fears. And that fear it drives people sometimes to do awful things, unfortunately. But in this case, we have H.P. Lovecraft stories to show us what not to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a powerful message when it comes to media formats, even literature. Is I don't think they should alter, change, or discourage stories of any variation. And the reason is because it creates the discourse. It creates if you're reading something and it's uncomfortable, that's good. You should, if this is making you uncomfortable, it's telling you not to do this in the real world. This is a fictional world. This is a fake book. And, even Huckleberry Finn, like everything in Huckleberry Finn, right? So, or Tom Sawyer, whatever. Yeah. There's a lot in there that has been altered and changed over the years. But every element of that book from the original source that makes people uncomfortable is important, because it's telling us the morals of our communal soul, that it is uncomfortable. It is wrong. It is disrespectful. It is.
You know what I learned from that book myself?
Mm-hmm.
He used the N-word enough in that book. I don't need to use it. There's plenty of other horrible words that people use out there that I can use.
Yeah.
And I use those words now for my villains when they're being awful people. We don't have to use the N-word anymore in our fiction.
Yeah, I use the K word.
Ooh.
Knee, like knee.
Yeah.
And then I talk about how knees, as you're growing in age, they grow. So, I talk about knees and the grows. So the knee grows, I use the K word.
People of color.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with people of color. It's just I'm talking about knees and how they grow. That joke used to work back in the day.
It doesn't anymore. It's a bad joke, dude. That's what
I hear it grows on you. I hear knee grows on you. So, but when it comes to literature, there has been a lot of talk about how books. People have gone back to books and actually
Yeah.
rewritten sections of books and things like that. What are your thoughts on?
If it's the original writer doing it, I don't care.
No, it's not. They're dead. They're gone.
It's a state. If their estate approves it.
Well, there's a certain point. But
Like, how many titles are we going to have for one Agatha Christie novel? Come on. Every time they rename it, within 10 years, it's a bad name again.
Who's Agatha Christie? All right. But media,
10 Little Tigers.
Do you feel media is so valuable as a moral compass for society to allow us to discuss difficult topics, or should they be avoided? Should books be written with a moral compass?
If it's irresponsible
topics,
it's irresponsible for us as a creative. Do not try to do that. Any good fiction is commentary on what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Or what had gone on in the world, as the case can be. So you're irresponsible if you're not doing that in your fiction.
Yeah, because even in horror, like
horror is the biggest one to use it.
Yeah, but
Splatterpunk. I write Splatterpunk. Punk is political.
Well, listen, sometimes you need to splatter that punk, But even people like us that have trauma, like you were saying, you almost got abducted. I had someone break into my house and try to pull me out of my bed when I was very young, before I even hit 10. And, I still have that. If it wasn't for my brother or my mother waking up, I would have been gone. Right? Yeah. So if I watch things like that, it attacks me viscerally, but I don't blame the creator. I don't say, oh, they shouldn't have wrote this.
Oh, so you're talking about trigger warnings and stuff like here.
No, not even. I'm not talking about, I'm just saying, imagine my trauma dictated that books shouldn't allow potential abduction.
Well, that really leads, like I was saying, into the trigger warning issue that we've had in the horror community over the past year or two. Mm-hmm. People are saying maybe you should have trigger warnings, and other people are saying, well, you're buying a horror book. There's your trigger warning.
That's the trigger. That's the trigger, Tommy.
There's your trigger.
I had no idea this guy that carries a chainsaw was going to cut people.
Yeah, but in a lot of extreme horror, and Splatterpunk is a subgenre of extreme horror, there is a tendency for writers to put something that rhymes with grape on the page.
Apples.
Okay. And that can, a lot of female readers, and we already discussed earlier, guys, it doesn't often happen, but with a lot of female readers, they have experienced this, because unfortunately for women, they have to date their number one predator.
Yeah. Bears.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, bears like men. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, no, because the bear,
So
the LGBTQ, it's bears. I know a lot of bears.
I know a lot. Hey, trust me. I know. I'd rather see a bear in the woods than a lot.
No, bears. You know what a bear is?
Yeah. Yes. A furry gay man. I understand.
Yeah. Big.
Yes.
I have many a bear friends.
So do I. But
much safer than
I often thought about making a correlation joke with that when the whole bear and the woman thing in the forest was going on.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? That's kind of being disrespectful to my gay friends if I was to do that.
Oh yeah, if you compare,
because it really is. Because what am I actually doing with that? Yeah. Is I am devaluing their manship. I really am.
Yeah.
If I was to do that, if I was to I couldn't find a way to make the joke funny.
Yeah.
It's there. It is a funny joke if you think about it.
It works.
But it devalues the gay man in this joke.
Well, I'm saying they're
not a real man.
I would rather be with a bear.
Yeah. I'd rather be the bear in the forest too.
No, the bear as in the man, because they're loving, they're going to protect you.
Yeah, that was a joke that I was going to try to get at. And then there's the old, I hate to use the phrase, but fag hag.
Oh yeah,
where a straight woman is friends with a lot of gay guys.
Yeah. Hello. No.
My ex is one. All her friends are gay.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to be around people that you don't have to worry, like, do they want to have sex with me? You know, that's
That's a horrible thing to say about. That's the whole reason that a guy like me has to write positive fiction and represent things properly in it.
yeah.
Because if you don't, it's just this culture that we have is going to continue to prosper, and we don't want that culture to prosper.
But when you say properly, are
I
you
have
taking away the
a lot of my
realistic?
protagonists are females.
Yeah.
They're strong. I don't put them in situations where they're going to be graped.
Yeah. As in, if they don't get graped, then their entire character is missing.
I don't believe in I don't like the girl trapped in my basement trope.
Yeah.
Because to me that's just somebody extending a fetish.
Well, yeah. I mean, some girls like that though.
Well, I did do a person locked in a basement story, but it wasn't anything that could be fetishized. I had to break that trope, and I basically took I Am Legend and flipped it on its head. Made it a female character instead of a male.
And then the guy, well, they've done it, but that's been in many stories where the guy was a grapist, and the woman had him locked up and then cut his wee wee off. And
yeah, that's I Spit on Your Grave. It's a great example of that.
Yeah,
that's an exploitation movie. Again, we were talking about exploitation from the 70s. That's an exploitation movie where you can show that as a feminism power trait. That feels good. That feels so good it hurts. My favorite quote from that movie, when she cuts the guy's pecker off in the bathtub.
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, ouch."
Yeah. And then it's just that spray of blood out of the tub. That's the only the thing about these movies. They were so low budget. They didn't have they didn't make the prosthetics or anything. That's why you just saw the blood spurt.
You're like, Quentin Tarantino saw this.
Yeah. Well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre's got no blood in it at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's fake.
Think about it. But it's considered one of the most horrifying movies of all time.
Well, yeah, it has.
Because it has you think of chainsaw, you think of blood, but there isn't any. Yeah, and I think it was Variety that just named Texas Chainsaw Massacre as the #1 horror movie of all time.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I can put it up.
Top 3
original, not the remake.
The original. I like the remake.
The remake is good with Jessica Biel.
The one that has the same narrator, John Larroquette.
Yeah.
I also like the remake of Friday the 13th. I think it's a better movie.
Oh, where it was? I didn't see it,
Pot
but it's really more realistic, right?
Yeah, Pot Farmer Jason. Yeah. I like that a lot better.
Going back to the so like when it comes to characters for me, I try not to write men or women. I try to write characters, and then it just so happens they are whatever it is.
That happens often with me too.
Yeah, and when especially when I'm working with a client or I'm teaching writing or whatever I'm doing, I tell people, I go, don't think like, oh, you know what I want? A CEO. She's going to be from India, and she's already successful, and she's strong, and she doesn't. And I'm like, but you're not. So far, you didn't write anything interesting. Like, there's nothing there yet. And they're like, why not? Yeah. Like, because none of those things are interesting. Because you could take characters and you give them true story, true dimension, true movement, true motions, true positions, true, and then whatever they look like, they could literally be human rabbits. You know what I'm saying? As long as those elements are there in the foundation, it doesn't matter if they're an elephant that has a human, they can speak. That's why Disney cartoons where they're animals, we can connect to them because it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a car.
Yeah, that's also a little bit of a metaphor for what those kind of characters are representing too.
Yeah, I love
anthropomorphize, whatever the freaking word is. Animals into human like beings.
Well, also children relate to because we create we give life.
Oh, it's so cute! It's a talking bear.
Yeah, and you're like, no way, singing. The bare necessities.
Yes.
But when it comes to characters like that, I think the tropes are formed when they are leaned into, and that's what makes a trope bad. Is when they go, I'm going to do this thing that is a thing, and there's no substance.
Right.
So, if it is a grape scene, what's the substance of it? Because grape can work.
Okay.
But
here's an example of it working. One of the first Splatterpunk novels, and some say it's the first Splatterpunk novel. I don't say it is, but one of the ones that from John Skip and Craig Spector, The Light at the End.
Okay.
The Light at the End is instrumental for a couple of reasons. Number one, everybody knows the lead character in this book, the lead vampire, Rudy. Joss Whedon changed his name to Spike.
Oh.
Yeah. When Joss Whedon created Spike, he directly took him out of The Light at the End.
Yeah.
And just changed his name. In The Light at the End, there is a scene where Dracula / the Master grapes Rudy.
Yeah.
It is the most horrifying thing I have ever read.
When Dracula does it.
Yeah, well, the Master. He's just called the Master in there, which means he's fucking Dracula. Okay?
Yeah, I get it.
Whatever the head vampire. This is the Lost Buffy the Vampire Slayer book, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
It's technically in the Buffy universe because it has Spike in it. Well, Rudy.
The Spike, yeah.
Yeah, the original Spike.
Yeah,
and Joss Whedon's gone on record as saying that he did steal it from them.
Sometimes that's where the greatest writing can come from. I'm not saying Buffy is the greatest writing.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I'm saying.
I get you there.
Yeah.
I just wish that these guys would have gotten more recognition for that character. Being who he was.
Yeah. Well,
because they did create him. So, but Rudy in Light at the End, the scene where he is raped by his master, is horrifying.
Yeah.
And it is not. There is no way that it could ever be misinterpreted as being neurotic. Not at all.
Well, that's all right. So what you're saying is a good representation. I use that
loosely, shows it being violent. It is a violent act.
Now, what about
the Road Warrior movie? We all have seen the Road Warrior and the rape scene that's in the distance in the background.
Oh yeah.
When the Kavanaugh lady gets raped.
Yeah.
But it's all blurry. You don't see it. But you know what? That gave me nightmares for years.
Oh, I'm sure. It's a crazy moment.
Because you don't exactly see, but you can assume what they're doing to her.
Yeah. And Blast the Master did nothing.
Yeah, he just
he just watched. He was like, Blast the Master. Anyway, are you saying, because this is I'm kind of intrigued by this. Are you saying if grape is utilized in a way that shows it as destructive but doesn't have any positive or erotic connection to it, then it is a good representation of grape? However, here's my counter to that.
It needs to be used in the proper way in the story. It has to motivate the story, and it has to. This could be something that is the actual catalyst that causes a story to happen, like with "I Spit on Your Grave," for example.
Yeah, or midpoint conflict, or it could be, whatever. But like, what about people who, and I know people like this. They have these fantasies of it, and they like it, and they read erotica that has that kind of darkness.
And you know what? They can read that all they want. It's called dark romance. I have a friend that writes it. Her name's Lauren Beale.
Mm-hmm.
You can go read Lauren's books all day long. She wrote it. She's a woman. I'm not going to write that shit.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, just as a concept, is that at least the caveat? Is because, again, now obviously, there are some things, like, I don't want to murder people.
Neither do I.
But people like reading murders. People like reading serial killers. People like what? I mean, let's be honest. Anytime a hero's on the page and they kill people, they are murdering them.
Just because a character does something in a story doesn't mean that's what the author wants to do.
Correct. So
when Lauren writes her non-consent, we'll call it that, non-consent dark fantasy stories, she doesn't necessarily say that is a good thing.
Yeah.
She has a market for it. People want to consume that. There's nothing wrong with them consuming that. What is wrong is if they go out and enact it.
Again, though, in those erotic fantasies, if somebody's like, listen, my door's open, come in at 2 a.m., I'll be sleeping.
That's between a couple. That's
what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, so it's not wrong to enact.
I have a friend that likes to play that too with her boyfriend.
That's what I'm saying. So, again, there's very things can be evil, things can be consensual, etc., etc. But I think for me, because I did stand up comedy for 10 years, right? So,
oh God, you poor man.
it was
I've been
worth
telling the same jokes hosting karaoke for 20 years. Okay, I know you're paid.
I did write more. I did write new material consistently, but the big conversation back then, this was basically 2007 to 2016, right? 17ish. When back then it was like, what is off the table? And the conversation was always the same. Nothing is off the table. It's just the tact that is used to approach it, right?
Right.
We shouldn't be telling jokes to offend. Just like I feel like writing a book, we shouldn't be writing books to offend, but we should be writing books to create dialogue, to create a conversation, to move emotions, but not necessarily to be like, if I put this in there, people will be like, like.
Well, that's a gimmick too, because with a lot of extreme and extreme horror, especially the short stories in extreme horror, they're a comedy skit made to make you gag. We have gross out contests, events, and cameras and whatnot are not invited in there. But we tell stories about guys going through porta potties looking for used stuff in there. Okay, those are the kind of gross things that people write about.
Well, let me tell you something. There's this agent, right? And this family comes in, and the agent says, "Tell me what your act is."
Okay, it's the Aristocrats. Absolutely, every time. The Aristocrats is the ultimate shaggy dog story.
Yeah,
it really is, and I've written quite a few shaggy dog stories. They don't end that way, but still, it's to get in there that's part of the fun. And the thing with the Aristocrats, the part of that joke that is the fun part about it is to get into the end. It's the travel there. The beginning and the end of it doesn't matter. It's the stuff that comes in. It's the stuff that meets the slices of bread. It's the toppings in your sandwich.
But what do they call them?
The Aristocrats.
But see, that's how powerful that
people. Bob Saget used to sell that joke. They look at you, Bob Saget, that guy off of Full House.
Not only did he used to tell that joke, but he would beat everybody in the room telling that joke because all the comics would try to like best each other.
That joke's been around since Groucho Marx, or even before that.
Easily.
It was the taboo joke for the longest time, but now that's we got a Serbian film, so Aristocrats ain't nothing. I seem to recall you're a bit of a fan of pro wrestling sometimes too.
Yeah, I am.
So we've seen the evolution of finishing moves over the years, where the DDT used to be a finisher, and now it's a move you use, in the beginning of a match sometimes.
Yep.
It's the same thing. We become desensitized because the Aristocrats has been told so many times over and over and over again. We've become desensitized to its grossness.
Yeah. Well, that's what society does to us, right? We learn to become desensitized, but also it helps us grow, I think, because if we look back at like the times when families had 6, 7, 8, or 9 kids just to run the farm, there was no toilet, there was no running water. They lived 3 hours from town, and they had the farm was their meat, their milk, their eggs, right? Everything, right? And that kind of lifestyle became easy for them in a sense. Right? So then when they started talking about evolution, they were just like, no, that's not real. And like, what are you running water? That's the devil,
we still have those people. They're called Amish. They lit a horse and buggy's gone by my house twice this week. Okay. I live in Amish country in upstate New York.
Oh, nice.
We get good pies up here, and goddamn, can they build stuff?
If you wait around, they're excellent partiers. I'm telling you,
you get Jacob a bottle of whiskey, and he's good to go.
Yeah.
You talk the English. Yes, I do.
That's the Lord's language. Would you like to help me milk my bull?
I can't tell you. I get a kick out of it so much. I put it into my fiction because you can't help but write about upstate New York and not include Amish and Mennonites in it.
Oh, you're like a Stephen King where you write about like where you're from and you just
Well, most of my stuff takes place up here. Absolutely. I just want to give you city people the nightmare so you don't come up here and screw our shit up.
Well, listen, I spent about 9 to 10 years of my life in Florida. I know what it's like to be in a nightmarish area. I assure you. When you write, though, do you stay with it? Obviously, you're writing horror, so it's fictional.
I'm writing urban fantasy is what I'm really writing. I'm writing fantasy. It just has any good fantasy story has to have a scary bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Because like, Sauron ain't scary. We ain't going to the fucking volcano to drop the ring in it, Gandalf. I'm sorry.
That's right. Woodrow, who doesn't want a Woodrow Wilson? You know.
Yeah. So you got to be scary. So yeah, let's call it urban fantasy.
So when you're working on your urban fantasy, you stay within the quote unquote Earth realm. Do you have stories? Because I know you write a lot of short stories too, right? You do collections of short stories.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like to expand away from Earth and create your own worlds, or are you I don't have time for world building?
I before I started writing my fiction world, I wrote a 30,000 word Bible.
Nice.
For my fantasy world, for my D&D campaigns.
Yeah.
And that's what all of this. Okay. Surprise! Dungeons and Dragons.
Where's that? What is that?
Okay.
You mean
anybody that was a dungeon master back in the day ends up becoming an author at some point.
Yeah, that is true.
And I'm no different. I got my first D&D set in 1981.
Nice.
And
it's been downhill ever since.
Yeah, I had my own world, which was an amalgam of all the different TSR worlds, and I just changed the names and stuff like that. And
so instead of Forgotten Realms, I
just called it The Realm.
Oh,
The Realm.
The Realm.
But when I started looking at how I could apply that to fiction, and with me being such a huge fan of Robert E. Howard,
mm-hmm.
I wanted it to have an earthly tie to our history.
Yeah.
And when do I put a fantasy world where we could have a society like this that ceased to exist and we don't have record of it? Well, you put it before the last ice age.
Okay.
And what do you do then? Well, gosh, glaciers are a source of energy. If you can learn how to harness that energy, just a glacier moving a millimeter is enough energy to power a city. So I have a society that has learned how to, this is their lost technology, they have learned how to channel the power from these glaciers. And since it's the end of a glacial period, they're losing their power source. So it ends up becoming relevant to our modern oil addiction that we have.
What's oil?
So
power. So that's interesting. No, I don't. It's interesting that you're basically creating an advanced civilization, which would make sense that it could have been lost,
right,
because of the ice age and everything, and the fall.
So out of that comes the Michael Moorcock influence on me, and you mentioned different universes. Well, I have Eternal Champions as well, and instead of law and chaos, I have the light, the darkness, and the twilight.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And my main character and everything is the hero of Twilight, and she exists in all times, in all realities, at all times.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always the same person; it's a different person, but she always exists.
Now, as someone who writes female protagonists, do you ever get pushback because you are not a female protagonist?
Never.
Are they like, all right, well, you because there is a thing, especially on TikTok. Obviously, you're on TikTok, where there are some women authors and women readers that are like white cisgender men or whatever they shouldn't write female characters at least at minimum they shouldn't write protagonists that are women because they don't understand what
I don't have empathy readers that will look at my work to make sure I'm not writing it from a man's point of view. Mm-hmm. I don't have them because I have a slew of them.
Yeah.
Because that's what you need. I'm not gay, but I've got gay friends that I can go to ask, should this character be doing this? what should we be doing? I'm
Maybe
not
for
trans.
gay characters. You can't ask gay men about women.
Right. I'm not trans, but I have trans friends that I can go to. Hey, what is your medication called? How does it affect you hormonally? Do you have mood swings? Stuff like that. What are your slang terms that you and your community use? Any good writer is going to go to the people that he is representing in their fiction to get how they act.
That's right.
And how they react and how they do things. If you don't, you're fucking stupid. And we don't want you writing anyway.
Yeah. That's why I always go to my women friends about my women characters. I go, listen, I know how much I play with myself every day. How much do women play with themselves every day?
Just as much, okay? No, but everybody's the same, all
Because
right?
I feel bad having 3 pages of a girl just fiddling her bean.
I wrote a short story some time ago. It's a story called Against the Grain in my Moral Dilemmas collection. And there's a scene in it where the protagonist is looking out of a window and a cool breeze comes in. And it took me about a month to write a paragraph about her nipples getting cold and then getting hard, but I didn't want it to be erotic. I wanted it to seem, I didn't want it to be the focal point, but it happens when that happens. And I wanted to put that in there. And the reason I wanted to do that is so that a woman reading that felt that they had representation, because I cared enough to put in what happens to their body in a situation like that, but not in a sexual manner.
Have your nipples never gotten hard from a...
My nipples are always hard.
That's
They're all. I was told that I had the perfect piercing nipples because they are always hard.
They're always like...
Yeah, they're always at 10 o'clock. They're always the cast of Friends, okay?
They're always Rachel. I have a rule. If a nipple isn't more than an inch long, I'm not interested. That's really...
They're not that long, but they're erect all the time. But...
so you had this conversation with women where you're like, listen, what do you, how do you feel non-erotically about the nipple hardening with the wind? And they, how did they answer this question?
Here's the thing is, I'm a smart guy. I know that it's Western society that has fetishized breasts. Rest of the world thinks that they're just there to feed babies.
Which is weird because like sometimes the baby doesn't belong to the breast.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. She's still feeding him. Okay, or her.
Not if they're strangers.
You know. Remember, we can make milk too. Okay.
That is true. We do. Well, we're born women, and then we convert to the men. Well, actually, we're born fish, and then turned into women.
Or you turn into a giant mercury poisoned bear.
That's
you know, you could do that.
Yeah.
You threw this one off the rails, Tom.
I just had to.
No, I have empathy readers, and you have to have them. You have to have people that look at what you write to make sure that you're representing people properly.
Yeah. Now, what if you made them all
It's
up?
only responsibility. You're a writer. You have responsibilities, and that is one of them. Educate yourself. Makes you a better person.
Let me ask you something, Tommy. Let's say you create a world, okay? And in that world, you are writing fish people. Okay. Crab people. And I don't know.
What do they represent? What is the metaphor for them? What is the meta?
Well, the fish people are fish people, and the crab people are crab people. That's it. There are no humans in this world.
Okay.
All right. And but the sex of the crab people, they can vary from a flim to a right, because that's how they talk. And then the fish people, they have the different genders of and right.
And that's why they don't like each other.
That's why they don't like each other. Okay, but do I need empathy readers for that?
If you're using that as metaphor for stuff in our world, absolutely.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, I could write anything I want.
Yes, you could, but then you're going to be, if you're just writing it without somebody advising you, you're just going to be writing it from your point of view. Even if you try to write it from a different point of view.
But what I'm saying is the
still
point
gonna be
of
a guy
view.
representing sex the same way for four sexes.
No, but what I'm saying is, yeah, but the sex between crabs, I can't have crabs read my book. You know what I'm saying? Or fish. And I know how many times we fantasize about woman top, fish bottom, and sometimes reversed. I'm okay with a fish top and a woman bottom. You know what I mean? But in that situation, again, what it comes down to is the connecting factor to all humanity, which is emotion. And the way a guy feels and a girl feels has nothing to do with emotion when it comes to a tree that can talk, right? So, but emotions are emotions. So,
hey, my wife loves Groot.
I am Groot. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there are some things that writers can write where they don't necessarily need someone to come in and say, hey, you're right. Because our perspective is also our voice. So like the way we like see through the world, what we're trying to say, it's like art. Imagine you paint a picture and you have a woman.
Know anatomy.
What?
Painting that picture means you need to know anatomy.
I tell that to Picasso.
Yeah, it's the same thing with us.
No,
writers.
Picasso,
know that anatomy.
Listen, I started as an illustrator. And my career began in comics, all right, as an actual illustrator. And I can tell you right now, that statement is not true for art because abstract exists.
Right. Well,
all right. So you don't need to know how anatomy works unless you're specifically trying to draw realistic.
Correct.
Right. But why is every guy look, I don't know if you know who created Deadpool, but he definitely can't do chests and feet.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying? But he still had successful comics. He had a successful career. So you don't really need to know.
Why is it every time I see him in anything, I just want to pinch his head? I just want to pinch his head. Come here, Rob. I want to pinch your head. Hey, Rob. Rob, the reason that my comics in the 90s are worth shit is because of you.
But my point is, like, imagine somebody painted a picture of a woman. And then they're like, well, I can't release this unless I have 17 women come in to give me their empathetic appreciation of it to make sure I can release it.
If you're all right, you're
because it's art.
If you're trying to represent people authentically in your fiction, the same as you would be drawing authentic people, not Rob Liefeld. Same thing.
But what if you're just trying to
talking
represent
apples and oranges here? You're talking impressionism, which is a whole different bucket of worms.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, because again, if you're just trying to represent a theme or an emotion or a sense or whatever the case may be in any form of art, it doesn't matter what's on the page because it's just a representation of your mental splat, right? And but if somebody comes over to you and says, "Oh, you should have had an empathy reader for this," or you should have did your research.
Well, if they're doing that, they better tell you why they're doing that, and maybe there is a reason for them to do that. Because you said that a woman thought with her breasts or something like that,
which would be interesting.
Which maybe the guy wrote that because somebody said that a guy thinks with his pecker, so maybe a girl thinks with her boobs.
There you go.
I'll put that in fiction. Well, no, you're an idiot for doing that unless you put it as a character saying it. If the character's saying it, then all bets are off there.
Well, yeah.
You're not saying it. The character is.
Well, yeah, once you create a character position, then you could explore that position. But also, I believe that there should be multiple positions in a story. If somebody believes that, red is the best color in the world, somebody should be saying that red isn't the best color in the world. Somebody should be saying red is kind of okay. And there should be different positions that are discussed.
Well, that's the old fairness doctrine from journalism that we used to have in this country, but no longer do because of Fox News. Anyway.
Hey, that's only because Nixon's Watergate scandal that Fox exists. Just for the record.
Yeah. Well, God, don't get me started on them.
Now that's
yellow journalism. You used to be able to tell what it was because it was yellow, because the paper aged badly because it was the poorest quality of paper you could get, and also dogs used to piss on it. Okay, but now
And
you
they should
can't
still
tell
piss
what
on
it is because it's all slickly produced on the cable network.
As long as Sudoku's in there, I don't care. I need my Sudoku. But all I'm saying is, I agree with you that it's important to do your research. I also agree highly that it's important to have empathy readers, but I don't think you have to have them. I think that's the reality. I think
You have beta readers.
I have alpha and beta readers, but my alpha
Okay,
readers
make
are
sure your
there.
alpha and beta readers are a diverse bunch because what you're going to get out of that is two birds with one stone.
Yes, but I'm not getting them to make sure that I'm writing
If you fuck
dogs
up, they're going to
correctly.
tell you, Tom.
No, I understand, but my intentions aren't. I hope I'm writing the dog correctly.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
you're just
Like
writing a
that's
dog.
yeah. I'm just writing a dog, and
I
I'm like,
get
man,
that. I understand that. And when Fido reads it, he's going to understand that.
yeah.
That's good.
But I'm also not going to
Unless you
give it
say
to
that the
Fido.
cat and the dog were getting along, and then Fido might have issues with that.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not going to give it to Fido and say, "Hey, Fido, can you make sure that the dogs are represented correctly?" I'm not going to do that. But because I don't want to influence or create a bias. I don't want them to be specifically looking because the devils are in the details. If I tell you, hey, when you're reading this, tell me if you spot the twist. Now you're looking for a twist. So everything.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and what I'm telling you is this is why you want to have a diverse beta reader and alpha reader group. And by diverse, I mean different sexes, different orientations, different racial, and different cultural.
What about heights?
You want to, if you're concerned about height and shortness, fine, that too. All right, just you want to make sure that your group of beta readers is diverse because they will tell you, hey, you're writing this from a white guy's point of view.
Interesting. Now, what if the world has nothing to do with people of whiteness or color? Like they don't exist. Again, what if it's all fish?
Then
Fish people.
again, they're going to tell you when they read.
Yeah. But if they
Whether or
tell me
not
this is
it's
written from a
appropriate.
white guy's point of view, I'm going to tell them they're wrong because I'm not white. I'm just pale.
Yeah, but again, like I said earlier, it's what is this? If it's good fiction, it's metaphor for something that's going on in our world. So what do these represent?
So maybe the fish represent the deflation of the climate change affecting the icebergs and raising the water, where humanity was destroyed and fish took over.
All right, you're always going to have two groups, one that leans left and one that leans right.
So you could have the one in the center too.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you're not always going to have a left and right. You're going to have a variation because that's the variable of existence.
Well, you can't have up without down,
as well as left and right.
Without right.
That's right. And also, east eventually becomes west. So
it does.
But what I'm saying is, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, listen, this is written like a white guy." First of all, I'm not a white person. I'm just pale. That's it's true. I know you're laughing, but genealogically, I'm pale, but I'm not a white person. From the region I come from, all this stuff, it's just I ended up pale, but my brother's dark, my cousins are dark. Like it's colorism. So like, when I date black women and they talk about that, they say, oh yeah, a lot of times if you're light skinned, you get ridiculed. And that's something that I've had to deal with my whole life. In fact,
that's something maybe you should address in your fiction then.
Well, I do. I address ignorance in my fiction.
Okay, well, right there, perfect example, because you can use that to show another character's ignorance, which allows discussion to be open about that topic.
Yes, but that's not what my point is. My position is that people might say, because they have a bias to my tone, right, that I am writing from a white. First of all, they might say white. They'll make up the word cis and they'll make up the word male gender because that's what they assume because they are only looking at me. But they don't know who I am. They don't know my upbringing. They don't know where my origin is. They don't know any of that. They only know what their perception allows them. And then if they give me that critique or they start critiquing it, and they start creating a dialogue that, oh, this white straight guy who's a cis something or other, he is terrible. And you're like, yeah, but it's not from that point of view, because you don't know.
That's a danger you're going to have to face. There's always going to be ignorant people out there that say stupid fucking things and make dumb assumptions. All right, you can't don't brace your brand off of defending your heritage.
Oh yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I don't really associate with people that look at me as a quote unquote white person, because I'm not white. That's the part that I've grown up that way. I've been confused for Jewish, Puerto Rican, Greek. Well, my brother's been Syrian, Iranian. like we've got stuff.
I thought you were some Middle Eastern descent.
I could be, right. You never know, but I don't.
What is your heritage?
Well, I am Sicilian by I'm deep Sicilian, South Italy, so that makes me Syrian. But I'm also I'm Mediterranean, but my family are all dark.
So they're olive skinned and you're not.
Yeah, and some of them are darker. I'd hang out with my cousin, and they'd be like, "You guys aren't related." I'm like, her mother is my aunt.
I figured you were from somewhere around the area because of your hair.
Oh yeah,
but honestly, your hair gives it away every time.
I got the good hair. Well, my hair.
You have good hair. You got a big head of hair though.
Yeah, I'm not even showing baldness yet. I'm pretty.
Aren't you lucky?
Hey, I'm 46. I got time.
I'm 10 years older than you. All right.
But you have good bald head. Some people don't.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, some people are like, I'm gonna just go bald. I'm going bald. I'm just gonna shave it off, and then their head is like.
Well, you come to a decision. You have to either I'm going to be Christopher Lloyd or I'm going to be Bruce Willis. I went with Bruce Willis.
But you could pull it off, and then your beard sort of you look great. You look great. You have a great look. But my point is, I have run into those situations where, first of all, I don't write on Earth. Every story I've ever written is on a fictional world with fictional people. There's two suns, so everybody is dark. There's a variation of dark. And they're like, you're writing black people. And I go, not one of them is a black person. Not one of them is African. Not one of them Haitian.
No one's the same argument with the drow being racist in D&D.
Oh, God. Well,
okay, here's my problem with this whole cultural shift with this.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree that D&D has always been cultural genocide when you go to play it. Okay, you're killing all the goblins because we think they're evil. Well, I've always believed that they shouldn't be perceived that way as well. And I've always been of the gumption that this sect of drows that we encountered were just bad drow, the evil drow, because I'm sure there's going to be quote unquote good drow too, because there's evil regular elves as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always had that assumption. But because it wasn't written in the fucking rule book, people didn't get it.
Yeah.
Well, now it's written in a book. That's fine. That's good. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And drow are not in any manner derogatory towards people of color.
Yeah,
they live underground, and they decided to take a trope where normally things that live underground are white and pale, and they flipped it.
Yeah,
that's what they did. It was probably not the wisest thing to do in hindsight, scientifically.
But black, not brown.
Right, but they are literally black.
Black.
Like
they are the night. Yeah, so they're not black people. Well, actually, they are probably the only real representation of what when someone says, "Oh, they're black."
So you're black. Yeah,
they're
black.
brown. And if anything, they're orange, because brown doesn't exist. Brown is just a shade of orange. That's from my art background, but and we're actually technically variations of orange as well. It's just the pigmentation.
It's melanin. Yes, it's all a melanin thing, and that's what they didn't take into consideration when they created the drow back in the day. Now they've course corrected. Now I'm okay with that. I'm just a little. I'm like, how stupid are people that they would make this assumption to begin with? But it's just because it wasn't written in a book, and now it's written in a book, and now it's good. Now it's good. Now we understand that was just a sect of drow that happened to be evil.
because there's two arguments to that. It's like the original, like Dragonlance books. You know,
Dragonlance is problematic too because it is
well, yeah.
so those dwarves. I feel so bad for them because it takes mentally disabled people and it just mocks them so much.
Yeah, but you know, Flint's a good character.
Yeah, but I'm talking the other dwarves.
Oh, well, you mean the Gully Dwarves?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know why I put it together.
That's the big thing with that. It's one of the huge things with Dragonlance is how prejudiced it can be.
Listen, 17 names is a lot for one character. For the Gully Dwarves. But when it came to Dragonlance, drows had to be evil, right? So like if you chose to be a drow, you had to pick an evil alignment. Like that was
drow weren't in Dragonlance, so it was.
Well, they're in Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, they're from Forgotten.
Yeah, but they were known as dark elves in the Dragonlance book. I have the.
Yeah. It's probably the dark. Yeah, the elves in Dragonlance are different.
Yeah, but they had to be a whatchamacallit, an evil alignment. But the other thing was the drow were black, and they were like, black associates with evil. Why are they doing that? But again, it's black. It's not brown. It's not a dark. You know,
right? But we have to understand that the reason black is used when it comes to the situations of cultural situations is that unlike you and I who can sprout off our heritage, a lot of people of color cannot, and black has just become a catch-all phrase for that. Well, yeah, that's why when they say Black Lives Matter, what they're really saying is people from Nigeria and people from Angola's lives matter.
Yeah, the POCs, as we say.
Right. Yeah. So because we culturally have an emphasis on the word black being part of, regarded with race, there's where the miscommunication comes. It's like
exactly
earlier, apples and oranges about things. But in the grand scheme of things, we don't want to alienate or offend the people that feel that way.
That brings us back to the beginning of this conversation where it's like our responsibility, is it to the art or is it to basically be like, well, when I'm writing, I shouldn't write. Again, if you're writing to offend, I'm on the same page with anyone who says you shouldn't do that. But if you're writing to present views, create dialogue, if you restrict yourself in that sense, then are you truly able to be an artist? Are you truly able to create?
I don't feel restricted in my sandbox at all.
Well, you have a sandbox that you're creating, you're saying.
That I play in, yeah.
What I'm saying is I don't have a sandbox. I have sand. You know what I'm saying? Like it goes around the entire earth and expands into the universe, and I have no limitations. The only limitation I put on myself is, am I purposefully doing this to offend people? If the answer is yes, then I don't do it. Because I believe in two rules. Don't go out of your way to mess with people, right? Leave people alone.
Harm none.
And don't physically hurt people. If you could do those rules, they accomplish pretty much everything that's decent and moral in the world, right?
True. So if you just want to tell stories, just to tell stories that have no social...
you can still have the social you can have social metaphors. What I'm saying is don't go out of your way to write things that are offensive. Correct. Right? Like, oh, I want to provoke people because I want to, you know what? I'm going to be Josh Whedon. And in the season 2 of Firefly, I'm going to have her get raped by all the aliens, but they all die. And when Nathan Fillion's character.
And I'm a feminist.
What?
And he's a feminist.
Well, yeah, I'm sure he says you,
Josh.
But you know what I'm saying? Like he's writing that because he's like, this will be great. And I think that's wrong because he's thinking of the thing and not the substance, right? He's thinking visually the thing. Oh, 100. He walks in and like 100 people are dead around her. And that means they all raped her. And then he finally looks at her as a woman. Remember that? Like, did you see that interview? He was talking. He's like, yeah. And then he walks in. And that was how they got the show picked up. He used that scene as a sell, as the pitch. And to me, that's like, I don't agree with that motivation that That's provoking.
That right there should have been right off the bat. Should have been a red flag to everybody.
Different time where people
Wasn't.
just didn't understand how insane that sounded, and it's crazy because it is insane, but as long as you're not writing to offend, that doesn't mean what you write won't offend, but you can't write to not offend.
Well,
if
I
that
think
makes
you
sense.
should offend people sometimes when you're right.
Exactly. Yeah, but not purposefully.
Well, I don't think you should offend your reader. I think you should offend other people.
Well, what I'm saying is like, let's say I had one arm, okay, and in my story I wrote, all I did was like, I just want to show how stupid being one-armed is because I have one arm and I hate it, and then I go out of my way to really rip apart, no pun intended.
It was a book called Lefty or Righty.
Hopefully I'm a righty. So. But then like people read the book and they don't know that I have one arm. And they're offended because of like how terrible all the insults, all the right. But it's my life's experience. In that situation, I'm not writing to offend. I'm writing to explore my experience. But if I had both arms and I'm like, I just want people with one arm to feel terrible. So I'm just gonna make fun of people. Like now I'm not doing art justice. Now I'm going out of my way to be an a-hole, and that's wrong. But if I have somebody in there with one arm, and other characters are making fun of that character, and somebody comes to me and goes, you need to take that out because it's offensive, I'd laugh. Do you know what I'm saying? Because like, I'm not writing it to be offensive, but you are offended. Those can exist at the same time because your perception is not my reality, but it is your reality, which is fine.
Well,
but
the way you got to look at it like this: if somebody looks at something from that mindset and they give you a bad review or whatever,
yeah, that I'm okay with.
Reviews aren't for you anyway, and they're not for us anyway. The only way you're going to get feedback on this is this person reaches out to you. This isn't anything I think you should be concerned with.
Yeah,
as a creator, because we do want to piss some people off. So maybe if he was offended or pissed off, maybe there was a reason for that. Maybe it was his closed mind. Maybe he didn't like the fact that you were fluid with some characters' motivations, and they went into a different direction than the reader thought they were, and they got offended by that. Oh well, tough shit.
No, I'm not saying it's. What I'm saying is we shouldn't adjust what we're writing because people are offended.
Right.
If what we're writing is coming from a place of artistic expression, not aggressive prejudice.
Here's the thing too: a responsible writer is still going to make sure they research and make sure that they're saying the right thing, just so they don't offend anybody. Or do
again, yeah, you don't want to go out of your way to offend people, but like, I like if I was going to write about trans people, obviously I would interview trans people because I know nothing about that existence. But I know everything about the emotion because I'm a human being. Emotions are emotions, and I know what loss feels like. And it's like being an actor. That's when you perform. I've never murdered somebody, but there's something about murder.
Well,
there has
another
to be
thing too. You're a 46-year-old. You're gay, right?
No,
you're not. Okay, I thought you were. All right.
Thank you, though.
You're welcome. All right.
Appreciate that.
But if you were, you'd be able to empathize with the trans person because you know what at your age you would know what it's like to have to hide what you did, hide your lifestyle, hide your feelings, hide how you truly feel.
Well, I'm polyamorous, and I had to hide that.
Okay.
I people may not
think you have something that you can.
Yeah, that's a sexuality. Yeah, because I was shamed for easily being able to love more than one person,
right.
And realizing neither one of them are devalued. Love is love, right? And people are like, no, you have to find one person, you have to marry them.
That's Puritan moral values being enforced upon us in this country.
So as a poly person, I do understand having to hide and feeling ashamed that like, why am I can't, this girl is talking to me and I'm dating someone and I'm not, because this person has boobs, I am no longer allowed to talk to them because this person feels there's a chance that I'm going to have sex with them. Right. And it's like, I just want to be friends with them, but I do love them though. You know, like, oh, you're not allowed to love anyone that is this. There, if you're with someone, you could only love your family and other people of the same sex. But if you love a girl, like that's what I grew up with, and like,
Welcome
that's
to
so confusing to me. I don't understand.
You're Sicilian. Welcome to Catholicism.
My mom was a born again.
Even better.
Wait. My father was a Catholic. My brother converted to Judaism, became a rabbi. My other brother is a priest of the Life Church who has the wizard title. And I don't talk about my faith, which has nothing to do with them. So dinner at the holidays is very interesting.
I bet.
My mom once sat me down and says, "Could you watch this movie with me? I think we'd enjoy it." And I said, and the first thing pops up, it goes, "The Earth is 3,000 years old."
Yeah, but again, it's really important if you're going to be a responsible writer, even if you're just going to be, telling stories that take place on a planet with two suns, make sure that your characters that you're having there that represent something or are a metaphor for something are done properly. It's only responsibility. With any sort of power comes responsibility, and if we put up words on the page and somebody reads them and they become influenced by them, that is power. All right. Yeah. So you have to have responsibility with your power.
But the real question is, who is the police on that power? Right. And you can't say, well, it's the people that represent the thing. Well, if you're making, again, if they're fish and crabs, and I know there's a metaphor somewhere in there, right? But at the same time, they're allowed to have a voice, but that doesn't mean their voice is right. Because they are looking at it again. I am told when I go to Crown Heights in New York, people ask me what my Hebrew name is, and I go, "I'm not Jewish," and they go, "Yes, you are," and I go, "I am not."
Rabbi.
Right? Yeah. And I have a lot of friends that are Hasidic Jews and friends who are Jews, and I go to I have gone to temple. I have I've been in the ceremonies, right? But that doesn't mean I am Jewish, right? But when I go there, they say you're Jewish, and I'm like, I'm not, right? But it's because they have the perception of their limitations.
Jewish is a ethno-religion, so it's a little different than Catholicism in that aspect.
Well, yeah, but they also think, I come from Russia or I'm this or that. But like you said, like you were able to say, oh, I'm from the Mediterranean, Middle East area, right? So it's all darn right. But again, people thought I was Puerto Rican. People thought I was this. People thought I was that, right? And it's only because the perception is limited by the information they understand. So when somebody looks at someone, I can't take their word for it unless they are truly versed. Like if I go to an expert, if an expert says to me, "Hey, I'm looking at this in a very specific way," I would listen, but I don't have to take their word for it because they are limited by the perception, just like I am. I'm limited by my experiences and my perceptions, and I'm aware of that.
This is called polysemy.
Yes. But that doesn't give a person the right to dictate how I express myself artistically because their perception sees something, because we cannot trust a subjective perception.
There's reality and there's perceived reality.
Yeah.
We know what the reality is, but the perception that other people have always ends up becoming their reality.
Yeah, and it's real to them, but it isn't real. And I use this example all the time when I talk about psychology, and this element is like, if we see two people fighting, the objective truth is that they are indeed engaged in physical activity. But if we perceive them as fighting, we don't have enough information until we do a follow-up question, because they could be.
We don't know if there's so many possibilities. It could be two people with an issue. It could be, well, it's obviously two people with an issue, but it could be friends that are just fooling around. It could be two people who honestly, one of them wants to murder the other one. One person that could be a bad person and the other person could be a good person. There are so many probabilities that go into that situation.
Yeah. So all we can do is perceive it, right? Yeah. But we don't have the truth. There's only the objective truth is what is actually happening, which is we can dictate that there is an altercation happening, but we don't know the motivations. We don't know anything, right? And it's the same thing with like humor. When you do humor, one time I did a joke when I was first starting out in comedy. I go, growing up Sicilian, everybody does this. This is like, hey, what's the matter with you? But do you know what this is? And I It's Parkinson's. Right?
I got it. You're a wrong person for making that joke, but I got it.
Yeah. That was my starter joke, and it always made the audience laugh, and it loosened them up going, all right, we're not taking ourselves seriously. It's going to be stupid. I get it. But I had one person tell me that joke was so offensive. And I said, why? And he says, well, because I know someone with Parkinson's.
Okay.
And I said, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. And why does that make it offensive? And well, because it offended me because I know someone with Parkinson's. I go,
this
okay.
This is a trigger warning issue. What you're really talking about today is trigger warnings.
No, what I'm talking about is perception.
But these perceptions, okay, as somebody perceives something, it all roots down to triggers. This person was triggered by something that you wrote.
Well, yeah, through their perception. They perceive me as not understanding Parkinson's.
Because of their polysemy, because of what they have experienced in their life, they knew somebody with Parkinson's. So your joke pissed them off. You know what? Fuck you, buddy. Not you, but that guy.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry your friend had Parkinson's. Are they still with us? Great. Are they passed away? Oh, I'm sorry. Have a good day.
Yeah. Well, who's going to shake your milk? Your yoo-hoos now, right?
I wrote a book about a haunted assisted living home. Selling that book's been difficult for me. I figured, hey, you know what? A lot of people know people who have family members that are in nursing homes. This is something that people be able to bond with. I thought when I was writing this. Oh no, that's been a fucking repellent.
Yeah,
because they don't want to be reminded of their grandmother in the nursing home.
Grandma is watching you squirt on her.
Well, literally, this book has got more old people getting it on in it than.
Now, how many old people did you interview? No, but going back to
the
Parkinson's
all
joke,
of the characters in it are inspired or based on people that I knew in my life.
Yeah, but how many times have you watched old people do it?
My perception of them in there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like your perception should be placed into there because that's all. Even if you ask 1,000 questions,
what that does is that ends up lending and as I perceive their personalities, that lends to the believability of these characters.
Yes, but again, they are still through the lens of your perception. Yeah. They can never be a true representation, which is fine because it's art, it's expressive. But going back to the Parkinson things, for the record. I told that joke because my aunt has Parkinson's, is Sicilian, and she was like, you should use this in your comedy.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not going to tell people that before I tell the joke.
Down with that joke at all.
Yeah, it's none of their business. And I should not, because a person said that joke was offensive, I go, look, you were offended, but that doesn't mean it is offensive. Just like some things you might think are erotic.
Right.
But that's
different than representate people properly in the fiction. Again, this is apple and oranges. We're two different topics here.
I think,
but they run parallel to each other.
Yeah,
they are similar, but they're different.
Yeah, because if someone's offended that like for example, I have people who live on the plains in my books, but they're not native indigenous people. They're not Native American. There is no America. It's just they happen to live on the plains. But you know what? Every freaking human being on the entire planet at one time or another comes from nomadic people that lived on the plains.
Yeah, so look at the Mongolian steppes. They're a plain.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean if I write a character, you didn't go and research the Mongolians.
Or you research the Plains Indians or
the
whatever,
Plains,
right? I see what you're getting with. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if they go, well, if you're
trying to make a culture that lives on those, you got to make sure you represent that culture as one that would live there.
But it would be the culture of those people, not the culture of our existence. And
because as we've seen in our own world,
the
Native Americans that lived on the plains had a different culture than the Mongolians who lived on the plains in Asia.
Hell, the Mohawks of New York had a different culture than the people of California.
Yeah, well, the Mohawks in the Haudenosaunee as the nation as the Council of Six Nations, actually, was what our United States government is based on, and one of the reasons that they're so different than the other tribes in this country is because they integrated with the Europeans 300 years before any of them met anybody.
Interesting.
Or 200 years rather before any of those others met any Europeans. So they were already modernized by that time.
They were
During the
speaking
Revolutionary War, Onondagas and Mohawks and Oneidas, they wore European clothing.
What are they? The Blackfoots, right? The Blackfoots were over in New York as well. Or
No. We've got the Onondaga. They're the head tribe.
Yeah,
they are here in Syracuse, where I am. Then there's the Mohawk. There's the Oneida, the Cayugas, the Senecas, and the Tuscaroras.
Yeah, but on Long Island.
And what they are the tribes that lived along the Genesee River and the Mohawk River valleys that go through upstate New York, which is one of the most fertile places in the world. It's up there with the Nile. That's why they fought for this area against each other for eons until they said, listen, we can all live here peacefully. And this is how we do it. And that's what Hiawatha did.
Yeah. The Blackfoots, for anyone who cares, is they're from Canada, but they also grew up in the northern Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas area.
Yep. They're a Midwestern tribe. They're Plains tribe. The closest tribes to us are like the Huron. They're not part of this. They're a bigger tribe up in.
What about the thereoffs? You said Huron, so what about the thereoffs? But going back to the indigenous element, like I had somebody read a couple of chapters of my first book, and they were like, "Oh, you can't write this," and I go, "Why?" And you go, "Because you have indigenous people, and you got to do your research." And I go, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, because they hunt, and they live in a community, and they have a leader." I didn't call the leader's not a chief though; they're a neighbor more. Right. And they're like, yeah, but they have like a warrior society, and they have, and I go, oh, so maybe I'm writing samurais. Oh, well, then you got to do research. Well, they're not samurais though, but samurais have warrior societies, and samurais have.
You're blending things together. They could be Spartans too. Who cares?
They could be and I'm like, these are their own. If you're saying hunting is limited to only indigenous people,
again, it's that same thing that we were talking about before. The Mongolians are different than the tribes over here, even though they kind of came from over there because they went across the Bering Sea.
That's right. Yeah, they're all
they came from that
Asian descent. Yeah,
they absolutely did. Now for Bella's boys, I've got a lot of there's an Onondaga character in it, and I made sure that I went to my friends that were in the Onondaga Nation, and I asked them, what are things that I can say or shouldn't say, what are some of her mannerisms that she should have being part of the tribe. And they advised me, and I put that all into the story.
And that's that's 100% awesome and great, because you are right. Again, if I'm writing about, even if I was like, I'm going to write about Abraham Lincoln, I have to do so. Even if I made it Abraham Lincoln fighting aliens, and
you got to research on Abraham Lincoln.
I still have to do
vampire hunting days. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he hunted vampires. Terrible book. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're adding any realism of our known world, I agree 1000%. Do your research, because you want it to be authentic to that. But if you're like Dune, the only reason Dune deserves research is because Dune comes from Earth.
Well, and Dune here's the thing with Dune. Paul's not a hero. Okay, we understand that. Okay.
We all know he's. In fact, he had to write the Messiah book just to prove to the people. Like,
funny that you're bringing this up, because again, this plays into your responsibility as a creator. Is if the metaphor is there to represent it properly, and the metaphor is absolutely there in Dune with the Fremen, who are an extension of Arabic cultures on this planet, because the original settlers that came out to Arrakis were outcast Jews and Arabs that were Muslim. Yeah. Okay, that's why the Freeman names sound Arabic, because they were intended to be, because they come from that stock. So this is an example where you do have to do your diligence.
That's why
you have to do your research.
Because
your other thing with the two sons and blah, 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 unless it's metaphor, then don't worry about it. Just
Well,
tell a
yeah, I
story.
mean, the only two sons. There's no metaphor for the two sons, but they are gods. Like everything is like I have actual living gods in my world, so you
That's
can
good.
you can physically hang out with them.
And
Not that they would.
Netflix won't cancel it on you.
I hope not.
Chaos.
No, they canceled Chaos.
They did. That's what I'm saying. Netflix
Oh
won't
yeah,
cancel
yeah.
it. But the gods
Uh,
living amongst you. That's
the
what
gods,
the
yeah,
show's
yeah.
the whole idea was. That, Greek gods living amongst men in modern era.
Well, that's also what American Gods was about.
American gods as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but my story isn't about the gods. It just so happens that they like I like Greek gods and like Norse gods and stuff, but I don't like that they hang out up in the heavens or whatever. So like I was like I want my gods to be a little bit more proactive in the world, and like they could come down, and some of them like being praised, and some of them just want to be invisible, but they like watching people, and other But I also have mortal gods, which aren't necessarily like the divine gods, and so I just have variations. But I thought that would be an interesting way to talk about certain things, but at the same time I don't have to go do research on the Greek gods because they're not Greek gods.
Right.
They're their own gods. I don't have to do research on the Greek mythology, Greek life, Greek style. I don't have to do any research on the Norse style because they are literally made up completely from scratch.
Well, when I did my deities for my world, I
Mhm.
researched and looked at all the different pantheons, and I even looked at the 12th planet from Zechariah Stitchin, because that's a modern day mythology. Okay, granted, it's a very racist one, but still, the idea that brown people can't do anything without the help of aliens. Come on, it's racist. Okay, so but it's a good urban fantasy. It's a good fiction in that sense.
Yeah.
There I can use that correlations there. And there was, the Sumerian gods and the 12 gods, and you look at the other pantheons of gods, and there's 12 main gods in each of those.
Mhm.
And then I use those to create my pantheon for my religion. So
And
I incorporated a whole bunch of ideas into it.
but see, again, if you're connecting it to something in the real world, then obviously you want to do your research. I agree with that 100%.
Right.
What I'm saying is, like, if you make it up, like if I start talking about there's a fruit called a hen, and if you eat it, it kills people that are 6'1" or taller. Like, I don't have to do research on that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But people can't be like, oh, well, you hate tall people, and I'd be like, no, that's not, has nothing to do with it. Yeah, but your fruit is has tallism, and you're like, no,
It's all this.
it's just it's a
But
fruit.
you're taking extreme examples of what could possibly
Well,
happen.
that's how you
But what
describe.
normally typically happens isn't on this level.
Well, that's because I don't want to talk about because I understand, like, if I go, oh, if I write a black character, like, I have to do my research. But like, what if what I'm saying is people take things from their perception,
Yeah.
and they over extend their rights into the world of someone else because they feel like the world revolves around them when it doesn't. Like, when I die, I'm going to be forgotten about within 2 weeks, just like my father and my grandparents and everybody else, right? That's just what happens.
Well, no, not if you get somebody to curate the estate of your books, and then you'll be remembered. Remember to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll be forgotten. Me as an entity, the name might be recalled, the stories might be recalled, but
That's
me.
right. But isn't that what we want as a creative, to have our stories live forever?
That ain't what I write them, but at the same time, I do it because it feels like there's something a little deeper in me for my own personal mission of just.
Yeah.
I
I do
have
it
to
so my
come out of me.
grandkids can say, "Hey, my great granddad wrote this."
I'll say I have no children. I probably will never have children, because you have to be with a woman for that, and women hate me. No, just kidding. I got plenty of women that don't talk to me. But what I'm ultimately saying is, I just feel it's interesting that as artists, sometimes people step out of their bubble.
Yeah,
and
you
they
got to
go,
step. You got to step out of your comfort zone.
No, but I'm saying other
So you
people
make art.
go, and they'd be like, well, I have a voice on this, and because I have a voice on this, you can't do that as a creative person. And you're like, but why? And because of XYZ. And you're like, that has nothing to do with me. That sounds like a you thing that you need to work out. if you don't like what I'm doing, just don't support it. Like,
Yeah,
there are a lot of
thank
things
you for
I
buying
don't.
my book. Have a good day.
But I'll give you your money back. Here, fine, whatever, But like, there are things I don't agree with because of my upbringing and my personality. But I have the ability to control my impulses because I'm an adult, and I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm okay with gun rights. I'm okay with people owning guns, but I'm not okay with people killing people
Same here.
with guns or a pencil.
Yeah.
Like, but people are like, well, if you don't want to, they are
I'm
not
pro-life, but I'm a guy. I got no space telling a woman what she can or can't do with her body. I can advise her that I think it's a bad idea, but that's all I can do.
I'm pro-choice because I want as many people dead as possible. Now, the way I look at it, I go, if a woman wants a child and I didn't want a child, and the pregnancy is by accident, meaning like we use protection, but like something happened, I go, look, I don't want the kid. And then they go, well, I want the kid. Then I have the right not to be in that kid's life, just as that woman has the right to make the choice of what they want to do with that kid.
Well, you can look at it that way, but from my perspective as a guy who paid child support for 20 years.
I don't agree with child support, but I agree with supporting your child. Those are two different statements. Child support doesn't go to the child every time. Sometimes it gets abused. But I believe that the child should be supported. But what I'm saying is I should have the choice.
Right.
To not be. You know what I'm saying? That is all. I'm not saying I wouldn't be in the kid's life. I'm saying that the choice, both parties.
Unfortunately, too many guys choose not to be involved with their kids' lives.
Well, let's add the other element to that. A lot of men are being forced out of being in their kids' lives.
That can be a situation as well.
That is also a situation.
And there's also where the mom is pushed out too. It's not.
But that's very rare.
Just one person.
Yeah, but
it depends on where you live.
Yeah, but ultimately, women, because and rightfully so, the courts are like, let the kids stay with the woman, the mother.
Place for a kid is with their mother, usually.
Yeah.
Unless their mother's a Nazi.
A teacher.
See, you went with teacher, I went with Nazi. Okay, entirely two different things here.
They're both terrible in some situations.
How about one's terrible all the time? Okay.
All right, but I don't know. But let's be honest. Nazis aren't terrible when they're dead.
Well, it's true. That's the only time they're not terrible.
Yeah.
They're dead, stinking, and they're gone. And my book, Prayer from the Dead, I get to kill a lot of Nazis in that, so it's fun.
Now, did you create that book to kill Nazis?
Yes, I did. Absolutely, I did. I wanted to kill as many Nazis as I could. And they're Puritan Nazis, which makes them even better. They're Christian nationalists. So I get to kill as many of them as I possibly could.
Now, did you do your research? Did you go speak to many Nazis?
Oh, I went to a Christian nationalist church for 4 years. I already did my research.
Oh, they are Nazis.
That was good. They're Nazis. All right.
That's funny. Now, if you were writing a story about Santa Claus, would you do your research on Santa Claus? And if so, would you make them the Coca-Cola
I'd have to drink
version
a lot
of Santa
Coca-Cola
Claus?
because they created Santa Claus.
That's right. That's why I brought it up. I was like, would you go to Coca-Cola route, or would you want to do Japan?
I like the one that came out a couple of years ago where David Harbour basically played Odin Santa. Santa is Odin. Santa was a berserker warrior.
That's fair. I could see that as a. The guy from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Listen, Mr. Tommy R. Clark, Thomas R. Clark, if you want to search for him on the internet. I like to do an hour, but I enjoy talking.
We went over a little bit. ThomasRClark.com is where you can get my books and check me out. And I write for Memento Mori Inc. now. I'm running their blog for them too.
Nice.
So, that's memento-mori.inc.
That's right. And Clark is with a C, not a K.
Correct.
Listen, every guest I have on, I ask the same question. So I'm going to ask the last question. What is one piece of advice you discovered about writing, either through someone else or yourself through research, that completely changed the way you approach the writing process?
Well, there's only one thing.
Okay.
We all rise together. This is not a competition.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So, be nice.
Be nice.
Be surprised, but that's going to get you.
And that changed your writing process.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Can you explain how being nice to other people changed your writing process?
Get more eyes on your stuff, first off.
So, well, all right. Let me validate the question. So, writing process is solely the process of how to get the story from concept to page. So that's what the question's asking. Specifically, what is your when it says writing process? How do you approach your writing process? For example, some people have said, they were pantsers, and then they themselves or somebody showed them how to outline, and they're like, I've never looked back. So it's not necessarily. I love your advice, by the way. That's something we stand by: is community unity, right? Where be nice to everyone. You never know who someone is and who someone knows, but more importantly, it's about growing and rising with the cream of the crop. But this question specifically is about the process of writing to get your stories out from your head. So, what piece of advice did you discover about writing, either through your research or someone telling you, that completely changed your approach to the writing process?
I started doing it professionally. I guess that's the only way to put it. I've written my whole life, and I've always written the same way. So nothing.
So you haven't changed your process through the years?
No. I make notes and I derivate from them constantly.
Okay, all right. Oh, that's fair. Look, no one has to change.
The characters take me in directions. That's what it is. It happens.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's good. All right. So you've stayed pretty steady on your writing.
I started out doing journalism. You have to understand that. So,
okay.
You develop a certain voice, and my journalism style was very casual, which lended itself well to writing prose. So,
but your approach on prose are less conversational and more.
Oh, it's there's a lot of dialogue in my works.
Well, what I mean with conversational, with like a pro conversation would mean that like it's sort of like, so anyway, he's walking through the door, and he wasn't that bad when he did it, but he had a nice coat on. Like that's conversational narrative, not dialogue. That would be
that's basically how I write.
Oh, all right. Okay, well, that's fair. Yeah, excellent. All right, there you go.
I'm kind of mainstreamy for an indie guy.
That's good.
But the thing is, because I have a lot of supernatural elements in my fiction, that doesn't lend well over to mainstream.
Now, did you do your research? Like, did you speak with vampires and zombies about proper representation of?
Yes, I have. I know many witches.
Nice. Now, when it came to zombies, though, did you find a lot of deadbeats?
Yes. Oh, yeah, they stunk. Really bad. They had a really bad.
Did they body your inspiration? Is what I'm asking.
Rotten egg and poop.
Rotten egg.
That's what dead bodies smell like.
That's right. As my father always says, people shit themselves when they die. So.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
In Vietnam, that was the number one.
That's how you knew somebody was dead. You stick your hand down their pants and you came back with a handful of shit. They were dead. That's right. Next body, please.
Next body. Let's keep going.
So all right. We're getting to extreme horror now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gross out.
Gross out horror. For anyone out there, remember that erotica is also okay.
Yes,
except for necrophilia.
Well, no. Maybe it depends on the person.
I don't know.
It's not illegal in every country.
Listen, you get the gangrene on the penis.
You could.
Did you know women are more likely to have sex with a dead body than a guy?
That's gross. Thanks for sharing that with me.
Yeah. That's a crazy. Look up the statistic. It's a weird statistic about morticians. Anyway,
rigor mortis, you are kind of stiff.
Yeah. Hey.
Go.
All right. Well, anyway, Thomas R. Clark, everybody. Thanks for joining me on The Right Mindset. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
This was so much fun. All right. Maybe we could do another time. There's always another season. All right. With that said, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. You were listening to The Right Mindset. I'll see you next time. As always, peace and harmony, truth and action, and keep developing the right mindset. See you next time.